I've been thinking a lot lately about why the world feels the way it does, why people seem more angry, more scattered, more distracted now than ever. And the truth that keeps landing on me is this: they want us divided. They want us split up, broken down, arguing with each other, losing focus on what really matters. Because when we're divided, when we're distracted, when we're emotional, we're easier to market to, we're easier to control, easier to sell to. And if you haven't noticed, everything around us is set up to sell us something. Every screen, every conversation, every headline, every algorithm is designed to keep us in a state of agitation, keep us triggered, keep us scrolling, keep us buying. That's the reality we're living in. I've seen war. I've been to Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. I know what real division looks like. I know what happens when people are manipulated and hating each other over the smallest thing. I know what happens when communities are torn apart. I've seen what it looks like when men are separated from their families for generations on end, and when children grow up without fathers, when trust dissolves. Division always serves someone's agenda. Division is a tool. And here, in this time, in our country, it's being used against us in a different way. Not to overthrow a government, not with bombs and bullets, but to overthrow our communities. For consumerism, confusion. You don't need tanks when you can control someone's mind with a screen. They know what they're doing. They know that the human beings are emotional creatures. They understand this. If they can keep us angry, if they can keep us online, if they can keep us jealous, they can keep us chasing. If they can keep us afraid, they can keep us compliant. And every time our heart rate goes up, every time our emotions spike, we're more likely to make an impulsive decision. And that's not an accident. That's not just human nature. That's not humans being humans. It's engineered. They've studied us. They've run the experiments. They've watched millions of people tap, swipe, like, comment, share, and rage. And they figured out how to keep us hooked. They figured out that division is profitable. Think about it. If they keep us fighting over politics, we won't notice that both sides are selling us ads. If they keep us arguing over race, we won't notice that corporations are making billions selling us products under the banner of this side or that side or one side or the other. If they keep us hating each other over every difference, we'll never turn and ask, who benefits from this? Because the answer is not us. The answer isn't our communities. The answer isn't our families. The ones who benefit are the ones who sell the ads. They're the ones who sell the products. The ones who profit every single time we act out of impulse instead of discipline. Discipline is what they fear the most, because discipline means you stop reacting. Discipline means you start choosing. Discipline means you stop buying out of impulse and start building out of purpose. Discipline means you stop scrolling your life away and start shaping it with intention. And there's no greater expression of discipline than martial arts. That's why I talk about Jiu-Jitsu all the time. That's why I run my academy here with my friends in Alaska, because on the mats, the noise goes away. On the mats, none of that division matters. On the mats, it doesn't matter who you voted for, or what your skin color is, what your job title is, or how much money you have in the bank. None of that matters when someone is on top of you and you're struggling to breathe. You have to think. You have to find a way out. And Jiu-Jitsu doesn't care about politics. Jiu-Jitsu doesn't care about your background. Jiu-Jitsu only cares about one truth. That's, do you know or do you not know? And that's why it builds community. That's why it heals division. But before we get there, before we talk about the mats and the community, we have to be honest about the game that's being played against us. We have to be honest about the forces pulling us apart. Because if we don't see it, we don't start acknowledging it, don't start blocking it out, getting away from it, then we're just pawns in the game. And I'm telling you, they want us in that pawn position. They want us in the cheap seats, arguing over nonsense while they rake in the money. They want us working the jobs we hate so we can buy things we don't need to impress people we don't even like. They want us competing and comparing ourselves to fake images online so that we feel inadequate, so that we spend more money to fill that hole, to fill that void. They want us buying solutions to problems that they created that never had to exist in the first place. And the more we fall into it, the more divided we become. Not just from each other, but from ourselves. I've seen men lose themselves in this. I've seen fathers sit at the dinner table with their phone in their hands, scrolling while their kid is begging for their attention. They're on social media dropping negative comments against somebody else who's commenting on their comment. I've seen husbands who would rather argue with strangers online than talk to their wives and enjoy their day. I've seen young men chasing status symbols, cars, watches, clothes, because they've been convinced that's what makes them valuable. And behind every one of those choices is a dang company cashing in on that division inside of a man's heart, inside of a woman's heart, and inside of our children's hearts. Division isn't just between groups, it happens inside of us too. When your values are split, when your attention is fragmented, when your discipline is broken, you're divided from yourself. And a divided man is a weak man. That's what they want, weak men, impulsive men, men who can't say no, men who will buy anything, click anything, chase anything, because weak men make strong consumers. And strong consumers keep the machine alive. And this machine is hungry. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't care about your family, your children, your community, or your soul. It only cares about extracting your attention, your energy, your money, your life, your family's lives. And the more divided we are, the more efficient that machine becomes. So I often ask myself, what's the answer? What is the path forward? And it always comes back to this for me: community, grassroots movements, strong, real, physical, in-person community. Because when we're together, when we're shoulder to shoulder, when we're training, sweating, eating, talking, raising kids together, working side by side, the machine loses power. When you know that you're not as scared of the world, you can do more things. When you trust your training partners, you're not as consumed by online drama. When you realize that not everybody is as bad as that people make it out to be. When you have a tribe, when you don't need as much stuff because you've got what money can't buy: trust, loyalty, brotherhood, camaraderie, sisterhood, belonging. They can't sell you that. They can't manufacture that. They can't imitate it with apps, with online groups, with social media, but they can't actually give you real community. Real community is forged through shared struggle, shared discipline, shared sacrifice, hardship. And that's why I believe in Jiu-Jitsu, specifically Jiu-Jitsu. It's the ultimate antidote to division, because it forces you into that space, and it forces you to trust and be trusted. It forces you to show up consistently. You're held accountable for your actions, responsible for your weapons. When you think about kids, when I think about the next generation, when I think about my kids, I don't want them growing up divided. I don't want them thinking their worth is in their number of, I don't want them thinking that their worth is in their bank account or the amount of followers they have. Or I want them to know their worth is in their discipline, in their character, in the way they treat people, and the way they carry themselves, right? The way they treat others, the things they do for others. And I know the best way to teach them that isn't to lecture them, but to put them on the mats, to let them experience the struggle, the failure, the small victories, to let them feel the discipline that turns into confidence, discipline that turns into love, because love is disciplined actions. We don't say no to our kids because we hate them. We say no because we love them. We don't push them to train because we're cruel. We push them because we care. We don't set boundaries because we want to control them. We set boundaries because we want them to grow strong and to be safe. And the same is true for ourselves. When you discipline yourself, when you train, when you eat clean, when you're dieting, when you're cutting weight, when you're holding yourself accountable, you're not going to punish yourself. You're loving yourself. You're saying, I'm worth more than being a slave to my impulses. You know, the more men that understand that, the stronger our communities will be. But right now, most men just don't understand that. Right now, most men are stuck. They're stuck in division. They're stuck in distraction, stuck in a cycle of anger, lust, envy, gluttony, and greed. Every weakness pulled out from them and monetized, and they don't even realize it. They think they're choosing. They think they're free. But if you can't say no, you're not free. If you can't stop scrolling, you're not free. If you can't go a day without alcohol or pornography or fast food or cannabis or the news or getting on Facebook, you're not free. You're addicted and you're distracted. And addiction is just another word for slavery. And they want us all addicted. Addicted to outrage, addicted to comfort, addicted to consumption. Because addicts are predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. I don't say this as someone who's above it. I say this as someone who's felt it, who's been there, who's lived it. I felt the pull of distraction, the grip of all of these vices, the weight of division in my own life. I've looked at my phone more and I've looked at my kids less than I wanted to. I've let anger consume me over nonsense more times than I can count. I've wasted hours scrolling instead of building. I shouldn't have done that, but I did. And every time I've given in, I felt weaker. I felt divided. But every time I stepped back on the mats, every time I chose discipline over impulse, I felt whole again. I felt strong. I felt like a man again. And that's the contrast. That's the difference. And that's why I always come back to jiu-jitsu. That's why I keep coming back to jiu-jitsu. And that's why this is my life's purpose and I'm here now. Because it reminds me of who I am every time. And that's what I want for every man, every woman, every kid who walks into my academy. That's what I want for you, and that's what I want for everyone around you. I want them to remember who they are, not who the world tells them they have to be to fit in, not who the ads say they should be, not what you should buy, not who the algorithm rewards. I want them to be who they are, deep down when they're tested, when they're disciplined, when they're a part of a community. That's where truth is, and that's where the healing is, and that's where love is. The cost of division is not just what we see on the news. It's not just a bunch of protests and political posts on Facebook and Instagram. The cost of division is what happens at the dinner table when a family doesn't talk anymore. You don't have family dinners and get-togethers anymore. The cost of division is what happens when fathers are absent and children grow up not knowing what real strength feels like in the home. The cost of division is what happens when men choose escape over responsibility. They choose that distraction over presence, consumption over creation. The cost of division is hidden in every quiet room. People sit together, but stare at separate screens. It's hidden in every broken friendship, especially the ones broken over politics. In every marriage weakened by comparison, and every kid who grows up thinking that likes and follows matter more than discipline. Division is a slow poison. It doesn't always kill outright. It just weakens everything until it collapses. And I've seen what collapse looks like. I saw what happens in communities. I see what happens when they're fractured. I see what happens when you can't trust each other and you can't trust your neighbors. You can't raise children in a place where everyone is an enemy. And that's what scares me here. Not that bombs are falling. They very well may any day. We're on the brink of World War III if you haven't noticed. But that trust is eroding. When you stop trusting your neighbor, when you stop trusting your family, when you stop trusting yourself, you're done. That's how civilizations crumble. Not always through conquest, but through corrosion. And right now, our society is corroding. It's easy to blame politicians. Yes, they play a huge part, but this goes deeper than left versus right. Division is an industry now. It's profit. The news doesn't make money if you're calm. It makes money if you're enraged. Social media doesn't make money if you're satisfied. It makes money when you're hungry. It makes money when you're jealous, when you're angry, when you're gluttonous. It leaves you craving more. It makes money when you're scared. Corporations don't thrive when you're disciplined. They thrive when you're impulsive. So of course everything around you is designed to erode discipline, to amplify emotion, to keep us on edge. It's not just a glitch, it's the system. It is the system. And what does that do to us as men, as fathers, as leaders? Well, it leaves a lot of us hollow. It leaves us constantly searching for something to fill the emptiness. It leaves us with a generation of men who don't know who they are because they've never really had to struggle. They've never had to be still, never had to discipline themselves into mastery. When you strip away discipline, you strip away identity. And that's what I see everywhere. Men without identity, men without anchors, men drifting. And drifting men are dangerous. Not because they're strong, but because they're weak. Weak men create chaos. Weak men lash out. Weak men look for even weaker victims. Weak men abandon their families. Weak men destroy communities. And every time a weak man falls to the weakness, the machine profits. But I don't believe weakness is the natural state of man. I believe we're built for strength. I believe we're built for responsibility, for hardship. I believe we're built for discipline. And I believe discipline builds us. It's just that discipline is uncomfortable. And in this world, comfort is everywhere. Comfort is sold to us by the gallon. It's sold as happiness. But comfort's a trap. Comfort is how they control you. It's how they keep you soft, how they keep you consuming, how they keep you weak. And the only way to break free is to embrace discomfort, to embrace discipline. Choose the hard path, the narrow path, the path that doesn't sell well because it cannot be packaged. It can only be talked about by people who've been there. Discipline doesn't come in a box. Discipline isn't a subscription service. Discipline isn't something you have to buy or can buy. Discipline is forged in struggle, in practice, in showing up when you don't want to, Discipline is forged on the mats, in the gym, in the quiet early mornings, in the chaos, when you're out getting your PT in, when nobody sees you. And that's why it's so rare, because no one can give it to you, and most of the time it goes highly unnoticed because you're doing it when nobody can see you. You have to choose it, and every time you choose it, you're stepping out of their game. You're stepping out of the machine. You're saying, you don't own me. You don't control me. I'm not your product. I'm not your pawn. I'm not divided anymore. And that's the battle. Not with guns, not with bombs, not with protest, not with your neighbor. Every day, every small decision is a battle. Do I scroll or do I train? Do I consume or do I create? Do I let anger drive me or do I breathe and respond with clarity? Do I choose division or do I choose community? Bottom line. And the more you choose community, the less power the machine has, because community is where discipline grows. Community is where you are held accountable and where everyone's held to a higher standard. Community is where you learn that you're not alone, and that you don't have to carry everything by yourself. And you learn that you grow stronger together. That's all I got. That's enough babbling from me. Drop a comment if you like this. I'm Jesse Jiu-Jitsu, retired Infantry Paratrooper, multiple combat deployments. Run a Jiu-Jitsu academy with my friends up here in Alaska, and I'm a free man.